So now let's get with Adam Silverstein as our guest for this morning. Adam is a WordPress core committer, where he works to fix bugs and improve modern web capabilities. As a developer relations engineer on Chrome's web platform team at Google, he focuses on making the open web better for everyone. And guided by Adam in this morning, we will explore the world of modern web APIs and features, showcasing practical applications within the WordPress ecosystem. So now, a warm welcome to Adam Silverstein.
Awesome. Thank you. I don't think, is my mic on? My mic is not on yet. Oh, there it goes. Cool. Awesome. Thanks, everyone, for coming. So I'm going to be talking about new features coming to the web platform and how they will impact WordPress. So the web platform, what am I talking about? I'm talking about the thing that we all build for, that we build our plugins for, all the things that web browsers can do. And that's been changing over time, right? When I started building for the web, everything was static. It was a bunch of blue links, and that was what we were building. We were publishing content. Things have changed. Now we have forms, we have interactivity, we have full apps that are built in the web, on the web. So let's talk about what those capabilities are, what's coming, what are some new things that might impact WordPress, and how you can keep up with them. So I'm going to cover kind of three areas: features that help developers do things that have been challenging to do in the past, things that help users have a better experience when they visit your sites or use your plugins, and then things that enable entirely new experiences that were just not possible in the past. Kind of the ones I'm most excited about. So when I talk about the web platform as developers, what you should be thinking about is baseline. If you haven't heard of Baseline, this is the set of features that all of the major web browsers support. And we're fortunate that we have this standard, because before this, we struggled with trying to build things that could work across browsers. Now we have this one place we can go. If a feature is in Baseline, we can count on it being available in all the browsers. That said, I'm going to be talking about some features today that are not yet supported in all the browsers, but for all of them, the browsers have at least expressed interest in supporting it in the future. And keeping track of what is coming to the web platform, you can pay attention to the Interop project. And this is an annual effort by the browser vendors to add new features to Baseline, to add new features to the platform. And the impetus for these features comes from developers like you giving feedback during the open process that they use on GitHub, and from the browser vendors themselves when they want to push forward a particular initiative. So each year they come up with a set of features that they want to work on, and then throughout the year they work on bringing those features to all of the browsers. By the way, there's a bunch of links at the bottom of these slides for things that you can check out and learn more. Don't worry, there will be one QR code at the end of the talk, and it will give a link to this deck, so you'll be able to go back and find all the links, so don't worry about capturing them along the way. So let's dive into some of these new API features. Popover API. So this is a really great new feature that's landed for all the browsers, and popovers are widely used. So this is anytime you want to pop some dialog or element over the rest of the page. We use it in WordPress throughout the admin interface for tooltips. We use it inside Gutenberg for things that pop up that you select from. And we have, JavaScript implementations of these popovers already, but it turns out it's actually quite complicated to do something like this in JavaScript, especially like if you're trying to anchor to an element on the page and users are resizing the page and having that work correctly on mobile and so forth. This API essentially takes care of all that. You can see from the little code example how simple it is to implement a popover now, supported in all the browsers. No JavaScript required, right? So this is a lightweight way of implementing something we've had in the past. Hopefully we'll be able to just replace what we have with this new feature and sort of lighten our load. Check it out if you're doing anything with a popover. So this is a really cool API, Scroll Animations API. This is the ability to trigger CSS animations as the user scrolls down a page, or actually have animations that are tied to that scroll position. So you've probably seen examples of this. We have plugins like Slider Evolution that have these features built in, but they rely on JavaScript that's relatively heavy. You have to pay attention to where the user is on the page, and it's this constant polling and kind of resource consumption on the main thread. This new API is entirely CSS driven. So all of the animation is going to be handled sort of by the browser without requiring you to load an extra JavaScript library. There's some really great examples on that scroll-driven animations.style website. And I've got a few examples here in WordPress. So this is a pull request on Gutenberg that adds an animation setting panel over on the right-hand side here when you select an image. It could be a header or some other element. And the idea here is I want that image to fade in as the user scrolls down on the page. And this is what it looks like. So as the user scrolls, you can kind of see the image is going from 0 opacity to 100% opacity. And if they scroll back down, it goes back. So it's an animation that's tied directly to the scroll position. Again, no JavaScript required for this. Here's another PR in Gutenberg. This one adds a reading indicator up at the very top of the page. You can see I'm going to run that again. It's as the user scrolls down, they get that nice reading progress indicator. Hopefully you got to see that. If not, you can go back. Here's one more example. This is taking a fixed cover block and then minimizing it into a fixed header at the top. So a full cover block, and you can have like your menu up there or something like that. Again, purely CSS, no JavaScript required. So this is a really cool feature to add some nice animations without a lot of overhead. Okay, here's the next one, CSS carousels. Over half of WordPress sites use some sort of slider, swiper JavaScript library. That is amazing. I don't know if they all actually have sliders on them, but that's what the data says about how many sites actually load these libraries. CSS carousels aim to provide all of the features that you see in regular carousels, but entirely using CSS. This means that the carousel is going to be much more lightweight. It's not going to interfere with other JavaScript on your page. And hopefully it's going to have accessibility built in, because it's going to be a native web component, just like any other component. They're working on that. So my colleague Pascal did a great blog post on implementing this as a Gutenberg block, so a Gutenberg block that is just a purely CSS-driven carousel. And I saw recently Elementor announced that they're also launching something like this. So pretty cool, people are already taking advantage of it. Not quite available in all the browsers yet, but I do think it's coming. And with something like this, if you're implementing it, you probably already have a JavaScript implementation. For the browsers that support it, you can use the CSS implementation and then fall back to what you already have in JavaScript. Hopefully, eventually, we will replace all that JavaScript. This site on the chrome.dev site, this page shows a huge number of examples of the types of carousels you can build with this feature. Pretty much everything. The aim is to really try to replicate every possible feature that people are already doing on the web with carousels. And this is a good example of an API that is aiming to address kind of a pain point of developers. People have solved this with JavaScript libraries, but it just shows that people want these sliders, they're trying to implement them, and then they're reaching for these relatively heavy JavaScript libraries. Why not have the browser just support those features directly? Cool. This next set of features is about improving user experience on the web. I really like this one. This is customizable select. So select elements on the web, until very recently, were just generated by the operating system, meaning what you got was sort of visually very plain. If you wanted to do anything beyond that, you had to reach for a JavaScript library. And the challenge there is that the browser doesn't really understand that as a select element anymore. So things like accessibility are hard, and you don't get autofill, for example. Now we can use HTML directly in our select elements. So form plugins can embrace this, and also all over the WordPress admin, we have select elements that we can improve by adding visuals to them, icons or graphics. So I've got some examples of that. This is a pull request for the media library where we have filters. And in those drop-downs, instead of just the names of the media types, we can now add images. So imagine you're looking for an audio file. Your eyes will probably very quickly go to that musical note. right? This is a way to help users navigate more easily. Here's another example in the bulk edit screen where we have the icons for the post formats. We already have these icons in Gutenberg for post status, and now let's add them to the bulk edit screen. Here's another example of using gravatars for the user selector, for the author selector. So if you know someone by their gravatar, it's going to make it easier to find them. And one more example, this is the category parent selector on the category edit page, and categories are hierarchical. So the way we indicate that currently is by indenting the elements in the dropdown. It's kind of hard to tell, really, what's going on. This is my sort of poor CSS attempt to add some visual flair to that. So now on the right-hand side, you can see there's a tree indicating the hierarchy. Just a small visual enhancement, but I think it makes it much clearer what's going on. And one final example, this is for WooCommerce plugin that they have a JavaScript implementation, but this is a CSS version of it. Again, you don't have to have the JavaScript. It's going to auto-select correctly, autofill correctly, and we've added the country icons to the currency selector. All right, here's another really cool one that we actually landed in WordPress 6.8, speculative loading. If you haven't heard about this, this is the ability to tell the browser to prefetch a resource before the user navigates to it. So this is going to improve the speed that when users navigate from page to page on your site, the speed with which those pages load. In the core implementation, we've used sort of the most conservative approach. So we only start prefetching resources when the user mouses down on the link. And then when they mouse up, the browser actually starts the navigation. So you get that advantage of maybe 50 to 100 milliseconds between the mouse down and the mouse up, or touch down and touch up. However, you can configure this in a more bold manner, where it will prefetch, say, when you hover over a link. Or if you have a link on your page that's a large call to action, say, and you know users are likely to click that, you can go ahead and prefetch the resources from that from the get-go. So this is highly configurable. I've seen plugins already that plug into the API, but you can also, as a developer, leverage it yourself if you have some specific thing that you want to prefetch. It also gives you the ability to pre-render. So prefetching is sort of loading all the resources that the page that you're navigating to will need. Pre-rendering is like loading that page in another tab. And when you've pre-rendered a page, navigating to it is instantaneous. It's just like switching tabs. So it's a pretty amazing experience if you can do it correctly. The risk here, of course, is loading resources that the user never navigates to. And that's why in core, we've started with the most conservative approach. Again, this has limited availability across the browsers, but it's a progressive enhancement. So browsers that don't support it will just operate the way they always have. All right, this is a really cool one, the View Transitions API. Props to my colleague Weston for the little video running. You can see as he's navigating through the site, these beautiful animated transitions. And this is done with a simple bit of CSS that tells the browser which elements you want to navigate sort of from and to. So in this case, we've got things like the post title that in the list of posts then enlarges to the single post page. And these transitions make the site just look beautiful when you're navigating through it. It creates this, and these are like automatically added. You can also customize them with whatever approach you want. Again, not quite supported in all the browsers, but it is coming. So a really cool thing. There is a Performance Lab plugin that was just shipped that adds this feature. And so you can actually just check this out right now on your WordPress site. There's kind of more things coming there, but check out Performance Lab and or just search for the View Transitions plugin. That's brand new. Here's one more example of it. This is from the Interactivity API demo that was the wpmovies.dev site, if you guys have seen this. And it's basically, it's a little hard to see on this one, but it's as the user clicks the movie thumbnail, it animates to that next position that it's going to be in. Previously, it would just be like a hard switch. All right, one more. This is near and dear to my heart, modern image formats. So you might have seen in the last few years, we've added some new formats to WordPress Media, including WebP and AVIF. one contributor, this guy Greg Benz, has been really helpful in helping us understand the value of HDR imagery. Probably all of you have a smartphone in your pocket that's already taking high dynamic range images. And you also have a screen that you can look at those images on. But if you upload those images to WordPress, you might discover on your SDR monitor that they don't look very good. And the challenge here is converting HDR images that we're all taking now to SDR that most people are actually viewing on their home computer screens. And one approach to solving this is a new format called Ultra HDR. This format takes regular JPEG SDR imagery and adds a gain map sort of metadata layer on top of that. So the image format basically stores both the HDR and the SDR data in one file, and therefore at render time you can choose. So if you're rendering for an HDR display, you can use the SDR version and not have to kind of convert. The challenge here for WordPress is that we cannot support these formats directly on the server until we get the server support for them. So our image processing in WordPress happens when you upload an image on the back end. And we use a couple of image processing libraries. Imagic and GD are supported natively, or you can plug in your own. But these libraries don't support all of these modern image formats yet. Or maybe they've added support, but your host hasn't updated the library. It's very difficult for hosts to keep these libraries up to date and to upgrade people because there's a risk of breaking things. So the challenge here is when new formats come, even something like AVIF that's been around for a while now is only supported on 30% of WordPress servers. So that means if you don't have that server, you can't really use that format on WordPress. However, there is a possible solution to that that is in the next section that I will get back to. And this is the last section. This is about things that we couldn't do before. And like I said, the web started out as this very simple thing. Now, Photoshop runs on the web, right? How does that work? Well, one of the big secrets, I'm going to get to that in a second. Sorry, I have one slide here. This is the first one, passkeys. Passkeys is the ability to log into your WordPress site or have visitors log into your WordPress site using their biometric identification instead of a password. You might have seen this kind of popping up on different sites that you visit. It's not yet available in Core, but this is something I'd love to see us actually land somehow in WordPress Core. It's widely available across browsers, and you can see in the screenshot that I'm actually already using it to log into WordPress.org. So it is possible to do it today. There's a good plugin that does it, and I think it's going to be something we will all be using in the future. WebAssembly. So this is the ability to run code that was written in a language like C or C++ that was meant to be run on a machine, actually to run it in the browser. So what does this let us do? It lets us run all the latest versions of libraries, like those image processing libraries, but instead of running them on the server, now we can run them in the browser. Because we can ship those libraries with WordPress, we can update those libraries as we need to, unlike hosts that are going to be challenged to update the libraries. And we already use it for Playground. If you've used WordPress Playground, that relies on WebAssembly to run all the server technology in the browser. That's exactly what it's doing. So my colleague Pascal also built this great WordPress Media Experiments plugin that you can check out today. This basically leapfrogs all of the limitations that we have on the server. It supports the latest web image formats, and it also does things that we can't even do on the server, like converting GIFs, animated GIFs to movies, a really great way to make them way more performant. We can't even do that. None of the image processing libraries support those types of operations. But there are libraries that do, that we can run in the browser. So none of the server ones do, but the ability to do it is there, and that's what Pascal has implemented in this plugin. So check that out, especially if your host doesn't support AVIF and you want to start using it. This is a way you can sort of leapfrog that limitation. All right, did you know you can run AI in your browser? So this is, again, thanks to sort of WebAssembly, but you can take large language models and run them directly in your browser. So instead of sending all your private data off to a data center somewhere, you can actually use AI directly in the browser. Now, these are smaller models, so the performance is not going to be as great as some of the latest and greatest that you get online. But you can see that they're improving just the same way those online models are. Some of the advantages here are your data is private. You're able to use this offline. You could ship an AI directly with your product and not rely on a third party. You don't need an API key. There's no cost. So there's a lot of advantages, and you can use it for things like, say, comment moderation or summarizing an internal bulletin board that only employees should be able to have access to, that you don't want to have sending your data out. So this is a pretty exciting thing. I think Transformers.js is sort of a canonical library that will let you plug into all the different models, so that's a good place to start if you want to check this out. And finally, this really isn't a new web capability, but I think I just have to talk a little bit about AI as a tool for us as WordPress developers and site builders. We started out a couple of years ago with people creating new, using AI to create content. These days, AI has become more of an assistant. I did a workshop where we used AI to help tune the performance of our websites, and it was amazingly successful, surprising even to me. But it's also getting to the point where it can act on your behalf, right? So maybe you need a new feature for your WordPress site, and you just ask the AI, will you get me the latest and greatest form plugin? And it will just do it for you. There's a new AI team in Core now that's aiming to kind of create the APIs that this technology will need to activate WordPress and kind of grab all the features of WordPress and be able to use them, interact with WordPress. However, I will say we're not all going to lose our jobs because in my experience, AI is really good at moving fast, but also makes mistakes and does things wrong, does things that we don't want. So I would say AI is going to be really exciting to see and is also going to be like a helper for us, is how I see it. That's it. So for the last thing is sort of a question to all of you, which is what is missing from the web platform? What are the things that you struggle to do on the web or find incompatibilities between browsers? Where are you reaching for JavaScript libraries when you feel like the browser should just be able to do that automatically? I'd love to get your feedback. So I've got a QR code here. That's the one you should scan. That's got a survey you can fill out as well as a link to the slides. There's also a bit.ly link if you can't get the QR code. It's bit.ly/modernizing-2025. That's it.
Adam Silverstein, everyone.